For his invisible attributes, namely, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world, and the things that have been made so that they are without excuse. Romans 1:20. But how do we know the attributes, that is, the essence of God? We are told in the revelation of Scripture, and by means of reason and natural theology. Being made in the image of God, we have been given a mind above that of the animals. And for the Church Fathers, natural theology and human reason was instrumental in apologetics work to the outside world. It is important that we have an understanding of God's essence. God is unified in one substance, power, and will, and the defining relation within the Godhead is begetting, generation of God the Son, and the procession of the Spirit. These are the internal, that is, the ad intra works within the Trinity. All work of God is unified with inseparable operations. All three persons are co-eternal and consubstantial, that is, that all three participate and share equally in the divine nature. There is a difference only by the economic Trinity, that is, the persons are separate by the specificity of their ad extra work. This is salvation, creation, and revelation. Yet all work as one in these things. We profess the truth of the Incarnation, that Jesus has two natures, fully man and fully divine. This is referred to as diphysitism. He submits to the humiliation in the form of a servant. However, there is no eternal subordination in his divine person. Jesus' deity is not subservient or inferior to that of the Father. He is not a secondary divinity, that is a deuteros theos, a concept common to Greek thought. It is also known that God cannot contradict his essence or nature, an impossibility, logically speaking. This is relevant for the atheist argument that if God is truly omnipotent, could it not be said that he could create a rock so heavy even he could not carry it? However, all omnipotence truly means is that in all attributes God holds, he is maximally most powerful in all attributes. It doesn't mean he can magically contradict his essence. And while it will be talked about in a later video entry, it should be noted that God's essence is simple. God is not composed of parts or eternal things apart from God's person. Finally, it should be noted that God is all act, that is, actus purus. God has no potency or possibility of change. He is ever good, ever knowing, and ever eternal. God has never ceased any of his attributes or changed his nature in any way. We will now take a look at all of these. God is truly eternal and timeless, not found within the bounds of space-time, and he was not created or formed by some other deity or process. All attributes, then, must be eternally held within God. God has aseity, or self-existence. It's what Jesus meant in the Gospel of John when he said that God has life in himself. It was written in Revelation, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." God is truly the one before, during, and after all time. It is known that God is also immutable, that is to say that he does not change in his attributes, will, or essence in any way. If he is eternal, he must be immutable, as otherwise there could be a time when he was one way and a time later when he was different, an impossibility if he is outside of time. This stands flatly against the nonsense of process theology, which claims that God can undergo changes or processes. God does not have accidental or contingent properties. All properties of God are essential properties that he holds necessarily from his nature. It was written in Malachi, "For I am the Lord, and I do not change. Therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed." God also holds maximum qualities in all attributes that he holds. That is to say that he is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. He is maximally infinite in all qualities which he possesses. He has no deprivation of qualities, as he has said, quality defined. His essence is equivalent to his infinite qualities. Just as evil is not a substance in of itself, but a deprivation of the good. God therefore cannot possibly be evil if he exists, as it is an impossibility for him to have a deprivation of any quality, including ethics. This flatly denies the idea of open theism, where God does not know the future. Open theists often also deny impassibility and immutability. For whenever our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart, and he knows everything. 1 John 3:20. Can a man hide himself in secret places so that I cannot see him, declares the Lord? Do I not fill heaven and earth, declares the Lord? Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. All three verses prove, without a doubt, the omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence of God. Classical theists also profess the doctrine of impassibility, the biblical idea that entails that God is not ruled by changing passions. There is no one-to-one equivalence to human emotional experience. His love is perfect by his unchanging loving nature. As it was written, God is love. But it's not because he is motivated by needing our love or getting something out of it. If divine immutability is true, that is to say that God cannot change, then impassibility must also be true. It's worth noting that this does not make God cold. God does have affections. He is love. Critics will cite verses where God apparently changed his mind to prove otherwise, such as Genesis 6:6 and Judges chapter 2. Yet these are what are referred to as anthropothetic statements, where God speaks in the manner of men to convey truths about the eternal God to finite and simple creatures such as us. Anthropomorphisms serve the very same purpose, such as when we read of God having eyes or a mighty arm. It should be mentioned also that God is the preserver of all things in classical theism. All that exists is held in existence minute by minute by God and his providence, active in imparting grace, intimately involved in all things perpetually. This is against the thesis of the deists and their functionally absent creator God, who created the universe and let everything else go in its own place without his needing of active working. Many of the founding fathers were deists. A rigorous doctrine of preservation allows us to see the miraculous via the natural world's very creation and perpetual existence. There is no need for the charismatic obsession with miraculous events when we recognize that God's work in the world at all times is miraculous in of itself. It was written, "And he is before all things, and by him all things consist." Colossians 1:17. Despite the obvious biblical truth of classical theism, it finds many detractors in modern evangelical landscape, such as those of process theology, open theists, and theistic personalists, all who would deny divine immutability, divine simplicity, and other attributes that Christians have for thousands of years claimed to be attributes of God. The classical heritage of the Christian faith is seeing degradation. The Christian metaphysics are under attack from many evangelicals who lack the proper categories to discern God's nature. This is unfortunate, as the Church Fathers clearly taught the timelessness and unchangeable immutability of God. It was written by St. Augustine, "There is one invisible, from whom, as the creator and first cause, all things seen by us derive their being. He is supreme, eternal, unchangeable, and comprehensible by none save himself alone." For they proclaim our madness to consist in this, that we give to a crucified man a place second to the unchangeable and eternal God, the creator of all, for they do not discern the mystery that is herein. And the Sibyl and Hystaspes said that there should be a dissolution by God of things corruptible, and the philosophers called Stoics teach that even God himself shall be resolved into fire. And they say that the world is to be formed anew by his revolution. But we understand that God, the creator of all things, is superior to the things that are to be changed. Justin Martyr, First Apology. For continuing unchangeable in his essence, he condescends to human affairs by the economy of his providence. We show accordingly that the Holy Scriptures represent God as unchangeable, both by such words as "you are the same," and "I change not." Origen, against Celsus. For he is offspring of the Father's essence, so that one cannot doubt that after the resemblance of the unalterable Father, the Word also is unalterable. St. Athanasius, Discourse against the Arians.